It had been a good week but busier than usual. It was the end of school, and the kids were ready to leave with my parents for a few weeks. Then they were off to Millie's folks and a trip to Florida to Disney World for a few days, followed by a 4-day cruise with Mickey and Minnie. For an 8-year-old and 9-year-old, that was like being in heaven. Then having your doting grandparents taking you, well, that was like opening up Fort Knox. We knew when those two came home, they would have more Disney stuff than you can imagine. I chuckled at the thought. I sat on the back deck, sipping my favorite Southern Comfort on ice. I could feel the dying heat from the grill and smell the citronella warding off the mosquitoes. It was quiet, but I could hear the bug zapper cracking, keeping the flies away. It was a lovely, relaxed evening, unusual for early June. Our "school's out" send-off dinner had been fun. We had burgers with all the fixings, early corn, coleslaw, and cokes for the kids. We heard about the plans for the next few weeks at my folks' place in Virginia Beach. They planned a trip to Busch Gardens and Williamsburg, stopping in Jamestown to give the two a little history lesson. Millie and I smiled at each other, knowing we would have 5 weeks together. That was something we had never had since James was born. The kids were in their beds for the last night at home for a while. My dad was off to fill his car with gas for an early departure in the morning. Mom and Millie were cleaning the kitchen. I could hear them chattering through the open window above my head. "So, Millie, what will you and Ellis do with yourselves without your kids for all these weeks?" Mom was prying as moms do. "Well, we are certainly going to reconnect. We will make love in every room in this house several times and strengthen our loving relationship." Millie said. I almost choked on my drink. I am unsure if Millie thought I could hear her, but her words instantly affected me, and my pants tightened. "Wow, I wasn't expecting that, but if I were still your age and had this much time free with Ellis Sr., Mom said." Millie and Sarah, my mom, laughed. "Well, that's the plan. I owe it to Ellis. He is a good man, and I have been a little slack in the bedroom for some time now, so I need to make it up to him. I love him so much. We are planning a trip to Myrtle Beach for a week over the 4th. That will be fun. We used to go there when we were first married. We learned to shag dance there. I miss those days, they were such fun." Millie said. Ellis Sr. and I loved Myrtle Beach many years ago, when all the small beaches, Ocean Drive, Crescent, Tillman, Cherry Grove were there before they merged into one city, and it became so commercial, Mom told her. "Now we love the community we live in Virginia Beach. It is close to the beach, has 2 pools, and is quiet. The residents are mostly adults, but our 2 neighbors have kids your kids' age and will be there to play with them while the kids visit. We may take all of them with us to Busch Gardens. That will be a real treat or a disaster." Mom said. The dishes rattled as they loaded the dishwasher and finished up. It was suddenly quiet. My mind went back to Millie's confession to Mom. "I thought our love life was perfect. We were a busy family. The only roadblock was the kids. They were always there for the most part, so not much happened spontaneously anymore. We were relegated to late-night fun time, and many nights, our energy was sapped, and we would end up playing a little. Then cuddling and falling asleep." I will say that I have sensed less bedroom enthusiasm from Millie over the last 6 months or so. I know her promotion earlier this year has put more of a strain on her mentally, so that may be part of it. I have also noticed her lack of interest in me and what I was doing. She used to take a genuine interest in my business and activities, but not so much anymore. I went inside for a refill. I saw Mom and Millie sitting together in the living room. I slipped into the shadows, watching them. Mom was whispering to Millie. I sensed it was a serious discussion when I saw Millie wipe her cheeks with a tissue. My God, she was crying. What was the matter? Just then, Dad walked in, all filled up, ready to roll. Mom heard Dad and came into the kitchen, and Millie disappeared. Her eyes seemed sad, confusing me. What had she and Millie been talking about that could have changed her mood so quickly? A little later, Millie reappeared and looked fine. Her face was washed, her makeup removed, letting her natural beauty show through. It was the face I loved. She didn't look at me, which I thought odd. Something was going on, and Dad and I were being left out. That disturbed me. Millie and my parents had always been open and discussed all issues, whatever they were. So, Mom and Millie were behaving strangely. How about a game or two of Scrabble? Millie suggested. Dad flinched, not liking Scrabble. He always lost. Okay, I'm good, let's play. I agreed. The women got out some snacks and the game. We set up on the kitchen table using the Lazy Susan in the middle. The game went well. The competition was fierce. Dad was leading and all smiles. Mom was fighting back, challenging Dad's words. I was holding my own, but Millie, an expert player, was last. She was not focused on the game. She was not her bubbly self but quieter. She barely looked at me at all. It was clear to me something was bothering her. We played 2 games. Dad won one, and Mom won the other. Dad and I made a drink and relaxed on the deck as the girls cleaned up. Son, Millie seemed distracted. Is everything okay with you guys? He asked. I looked at him. Dad, do you know anything? No, son, but she hasn't been herself since I left to get gas. What happened? He pointed out. I have no idea. I was out here relaxing. Mom and Millie were cleaning the kitchen, and I heard them chatting about what Millie and I would do while the kids were gone. Millie piped up that we would reconnect, make love in every room a few times, and take a trip to Myrtle Beach. Then, a little later, I came in for a refill, and Mom and Millie were sitting on the sofa in the living room, whispering to each other. Millie was crying. After that, Mom had an odd look on her face. Millie would not look at me and hasn't said 10 words to me other than during the games. What did you do? My dad accused me. I have done nothing. I have no idea what is going on. Maybe you should ask Mom. I stated. We sat silently for a while, then, want a refill? I asked. I took his glass and went inside. The women were nowhere around. I looked in our bedroom, not there. I walked down the hall to the guest room. I heard whispering as I approached. The door was cracked, and I heard Millie softly sobbing. Then I heard, Mom, what will I do? Millie asked. As much as I wanted to hear what was next, I quickly moved away and made a strong drink for Dad and me. I walked out, handing Dad his drink, and then walked to the edge of the deck. I looked up into the night sky. It was clear, and I could see millions of stars twinkling. I was deep in thought. What was going on? I was at a complete loss, totally confused. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I looked back, and my dad was standing there. Son, something has happened with Millie. I don't know what, but I hope it is not bad. You have a month to try to work through it. I know you will try hard. Dad, I am at a total loss. I cannot imagine what it could be. As sad as she is tonight, I am afraid that she may be ill and has not told me. What else could it be? I asked. This is what Dad told me. Ellis, let me tell you something you do not know about your mom and me. We have not spoken about this in over 39 years. But this may help you if what I think may have happened did. When you were 6 years old and started school, your mom decided she wanted to go to work. She would be able to save for our retirement, and it would help fulfill her day-to-day needs. She got a job teaching history in high school. She was doing great, and we made it work, getting you everywhere you needed. She progressed over the next 2 years and became the humanities department head. That required her to attend after-school meetings and a few travel-away conferences to develop the curriculum. This strained our relationship, and she focused more on her job than me. We fought about it, and I realized there might be more to it than just the job. I wasn't sure what it was, but over a few months, I had seen changes. Most of them were little things, but they were all annoying. For example, She would call me at the last minute for me to pick you up, and then she would come home a couple of hours later. Or she would have to hold a teacher workshop on a Saturday afternoon, so I did something with you. You were my little man, and I loved doing things with you, so I wasn't upset. It was more her attitude toward me that had changed. I didn't understand it. I was sure she didn't realize how much she had changed. On the Saturday before your 11th birthday, before hunting season, I took you to the Bass Pro shop at the mall to find you a Browning 410 shotgun. I wanted to take you hunting and teach you about the outdoors. We bought your first shotgun and set up hunting and shooting lessons for you. It was nearly lunchtime, so we decided to go to the food court in the mall. We headed that way. As we walked through the parking lot, I thought I saw your mom's car parked over a few rows. I stopped for a second to see if it was her. I saw her in the car with another person. At first, I thought I was wrong. But no, I was right. She opened the door and stepped out. From the other side, a man stepped out. I didn't know him. He was young and handsome. I gripped your hand, and we rushed up, mixing in with the other people walking into the mall. I stopped and looked back. I saw her and the man laughing and bumping against each other. Then I saw them holding hands. Ellis, it was clear to me they were not just friends. They were acting like lovers. Son, I was instantly crushed. I couldn't breathe. My macho self instantly surfaced. My anger level went from nothing to 30 on a 10 scale. I wanted to attack. But I had you with me, and we were in a public place. I quickly decided we would go to the food court and eat. I was not hungry, but I owed this day to you and was not wrecking it for you. We ordered and were waiting for our food when I saw them again. They stopped at the food court. The guy leaned down and kissed your mom. I almost exploded. He got in line for pizza, and she went off somewhere. I decided to check him out. Our order was up, so I got our food, and you ate. I went over and stood by the guy and checked him out. He was the same size as me, just younger. I introduced myself using another name and spoke with him. He told me he was Anthony Thomas, assistant principal at your mom's school, who had been there for 4 months. His food came, and he said goodbye and left. I watched as he met Millie at a store across the way, which she had never been to before as far as I knew. She was carrying a Victoria's Secret shopping bag. From that, I knew this was a serious affair. I was confused and not sure what to do. Ellis, I focused back on you. We finished up our lunch and left. As we walked out, I saw your mom and him again as they got to her car. There was passion in their kiss, and it made me want to bolt over to them and destroy them both. I thought about shooting the cheaters, but I couldn't do that. I had you with me, so I couldn't. We got in the truck and drove away before I did something I could not recover from. Once home, you went to the park to play with your friends. I sat drinking beer, thinking what I was going to do. I decided I was not allowing this to go any further, and when your mom came home, I would confront her. It didn't matter if I had absolute proof. I knew what I had seen. That was enough for me. I made one move that I was extremely nervous about. I went into the laundry hamper and checked out her panties for the last week. I left them out, putting them in a paper bag. I washed everything else. I took a few beers and sat on the front steps, waiting for your mom. I was going to confront her right away. This was stopping one way or the other, so I asked Bonnie Jameson, Eddie, your best friend's mom, to take you for the night. I knew you sensed something was going on, too. You had seen your mom with Anthony and asked me who he was. I told you he was Mr. Thomas, the assistant principal at your mom's school. About an hour later, your mom arrived, while waiting for her. I lined up the 5 empty beer cans I had drunk on the step. As your mom walked up, she asked, Ellis, what are you doing on the front steps drinking a lot of beer? Where is Ellis? I said nothing. I just looked at her, seething with anger. I wanted to jump up and strangle her. But I didn't and took a deep breath. How did your session go today? I asked flatly, Ellis, where is Junior? Your mom asked me, at the Jamesons for a sleepover. I stated. Sarah started to move past me, but I stood up, blocking her before she could move any further. She stopped and stood right before me. I was looking down at her with laser eyes, bored into her. She looked nervous now. I was breathing fire when I spoke. Did you leave your Victoria's Secret bag in the car or somewhere else? I asked in a firm but calm voice. I was surprised I could keep it together. The shocked look on her face was beautiful. I had her, and Sarah knew it. She instantly collapsed and slumped to the porch deck and started to sob. I left her there, turned, and walked into the house. I returned to the porch with a suitcase full of her clothes and a cosmetic case. I sat them in front of her. You will probably need these when you move in with Anthony, your boyfriend. I stated firmly but showed no emotions. I turned and walked back into the house and locked the door. Her key would not work now since while I had waited for her to arrive home. I changed the locks. Sarah tried to unlock the door but couldn't. She banged on the door. Ellis, please, let me in. I walked to the door and hooked the chain. I opened the door 2 inches and said, Sarah, you no longer live here. You have a lover now, and from what we saw, you love him more than Junior and I do, so go to him. Ellis and I will be just fine without you. I closed the door. I heard her fall back against the door and slide down to the porch, sobbing loudly. I walked to the back of the house, trying not to hear her. Finally, I heard her car start, and she left. I did not know where she went, but I had an idea. My God, Dad, I had no idea about that. You worked it out. I spoke. Well, son, it wasn't that easy. I was pissed off at both Sarah and Anthony. I knew it was not one of their faults but both of them. The worst part was that Sarah was lying to both of us, and that was unacceptable to me. You were too young to know. Remember, we had no cell phones, so we used landlines, mail, or face-to-face. It was much harder then. Dad explained. I guessed Sarah had gone to her best friend Janet's or her sister Mary's house. I got in my truck and drove to Janet's. Sarah's car was not there, so I headed to Mary's house. As I turned into her street, I saw Sarah's Honda in front of the house. I stopped a couple of doors early and walked to the door. I rang the bell and stepped aside out of the peephole's range. The door opened, and Mary stuck her head out. Oh God, Ellis. Mary gasped. I want to see my wife, please send her out here, I demanded. Mary ducked back in and tried to push the door closed, but I blocked it with my foot. I waited, and Mary came back. She doesn't want to see you. Okay, then, tell Sarah she will be served divorce papers as soon as I can arrange it. See you, Mary. I stated. I had just reached my car when Sarah came running up the sidewalk. No divorce, I love you. I am such a stupid fool. I am so sorry. I fucked up so badly. Get in the car and shut the fuck up. Don't speak until I tell you to talk. If you say one word before I tell you that you can, I will divorce you. You have only one chance, Sarah. Do you think you can control yourself? If not, get the fuck out, and I will divorce you and send you off to your lover. Oh God, yes. She whispered, looking down with tears rolling off her cheeks. Sarah, I am serious. There are no second chances. I said, my voice boiling with anger. We drove through town. I looked over at Sarah, who was fidgeting in her seat. She could see where we were heading, and she didn't like it. We turned into a condo complex and drove down the drive until we came to Unit 346. I stopped the car and looked over at Sarah. You know where we are. You were just here earlier today. Fucking your boyfriend. We are going to go in and have a little talk with Anthony. You will not speak one word until I tell you to talk. Then and only then can you speak. Say one word before that time, and I will leave you here with your lover and divorce you. So, you had better bite your fucking tongue, or you will be a single woman in a couple of months. Do you understand? Sarah nodded, no speaking. I stated, yes, but... She tried to say something, quiet. Let's go. I said, opening my door. We stepped out of the truck. I reached behind and took out the new shotgun I bought you, Ellis. I unboxed it and loaded 2 shells of salt shot. I held the gun down my leg and led Sarah to the front door. Sarah, you knock and speak to him. Do not warn him, or I will divorce you. Sarah, you do realize how serious this is. You have cheated on your family, and now you both will pay the price. I hope fucking him is worth all the suffering you both will endure. Probably not. Sarah rang the bell. Anthony opened the door. I was standing beside her out of view. Why didn't you use your... But he stopped as the barrel of the shotgun came into view, pointing at his face. He froze. I moved behind Sarah as Anthony stepped back. I pushed Sarah into the house, and she and Anthony stumbled further into the living room. Sit. I commanded. They both sat on the sofa, one at each end. I dragged an armchair in front of them and sat. I laid the shotgun across my thighs and stared at them. We sat like that for an uncomfortable few minutes. I let the magnitude of the situation sink into them. They had cheated on me and were caught. It was an OHFUCK moment. I finally spoke as they both fidgeted on the sofa and jumped at my words. Okay, cheaters, I hope I haven't disturbed any plans you have to get together again soon. Well, I surely have because, after today, neither of you will ever have a reason to see or talk to each other again. But before we go there, I need to ask a few questions. I don't want any bullshit answers. Only the truth. Do you both understand? They looked at each other and nodded yes, I know that before today. You worked together, and that is how you started your little affair 3 or so months ago. I deduced this because that is when I began to see the change in you, Sarah. They were all small initially, so they didn't send out any alarms. But when you love someone, you know all about them, and even the most subtlety, changes like your attitude or simple actions toward me changed. You didn't and decided to cheat on your FA. Sarah fidgeted and wanted to say something but knew I would dump her if she did. Anthony was too terrified to say anything, knowing I might just shoot him for fun, so, when Anthony was did you love it more? You can speak to answer this question. Sarah looked horrified at what I had said. God no, Ellis, it was not like that at all. I love you, and that always makes our love special. I don't love him, though I think Anthony has fallen in love with me. I held up my hand, stopping her. Quiet. Sarah's eyes faded, and she looked down. Anthony, so are you in love with my wife? Do you want her as your wife if I give her to you? I asked. Sarah started squirming, wanting to speak again, but she didn't. Ellis, I do love Sarah. Yes, she is your wife, and I was her pursuer. All of this is my doing. I put the hard press on Sarah for over a month before we finally had lunch. That took over 2 months. My opportunity came when we attended that training conference a month ago. I was not supposed to go, but I traded with another teacher who didn't want to attend. Sarah had no idea I would be there, so when I showed up, Sarah felt pressured and wouldn't even talk to me. She even sat across the room from me, and after we were done the first day, she left and would not speak to me. I had a brilliant idea. I ordered room service to be delivered to her room. I paid the waiter to let me deliver it, and when she answered the door, I swooped in with the food. We left that evening and came home. As Sarah listened to Anthony, she began to sob. Her face was in her hands. She would not look at me. Her whole body was shaking, and her breathing was harsh. I was worried she might faint. Wow, you did the full press and got what you wanted. I hope you are happy, Anthony. So, Anthony, how should I deal with you for what you have done? You do know there is a price you will pay. Anthony, what should it be? I asked. Sarah looked at me, then Anthony. Then Anthony looked at her, then at me. He swallowed hard. I saw his hands shaking. He was genuinely terrified. Sarah raised her hand, wanting to talk, speak. I barked, Ellis, you can't hurt Anthony. It was not completely his fault. I had to participate, or the affair would never have happened. I never wanted it, and yes, he pushed me hard until I gave in, and then I couldn't stop it. Please do not hurt him. Sarah begged. My God, Sarah, you think I am the type of man that would hurt your lover out of anger and jealousy? I thought you knew me better than that. I would never inflict physical pain unless he attacked me. No, no, I have much worse plans for the two of you. I started with a slight smile. My words seemed to provide some relief for both of them. It is a shame, too. We were so much in love, but I am unsure now. I stated. Sarah looked at me with shock on her face. She dropped her face in her hands, sobbing again. So, kiddies. Me being the kind and gentle man that I am going to sit here and watch you two fuck one last time before I separate you forever. After today, you will never see or speak to each other again. So, this is your one last chance to share a special moment with me as your single spectator. I said, smiling at them. Sarah bolted up and looked down at me and screamed, divorce me if you must, but I will not stoop so low as to in front of you. Do what you must. Wow, I hit a nerve with Sarah. Anthony sat staring at me like I was fucking crazy. But he wisely said nothing. I sat smiling at the two of them. Now, that was the reaction I was hoping for. There seemed to still be some life in my wife and her love for me, so there may be a possible future together. Sit down, Sarah, and shut up. I barked. She plopped down on the sofa and looked away, shaking her head. I saw tears flowing again. I reached into my pocket and took out 2 folded sheets of paper. I handed one to Sarah and one to Anthony. Before you open the papers, I want to explain. When I figured out what was happening between you two today, I called Mr. Jensen, the school principal, and explained what was happening. He told me you both would be terminated immediately. I didn't want that, so I proposed a better option. I explained it to him, and he contacted the school system HR head. While I waited for you to come home, Sarah, we had a 3-way call. I proposed a plan that would keep you both employed. There were 2 requirements I had, and they were readily agreed to. This would satisfy me and eliminate any legal issues arising from this mess you two have created. My conditions were simple, actually, but neither of you is going to like them. 1. The two of you never have the opportunity to work together, see each other, or travel together in a group or as a couple again. Anthony, you will also lose your extra responsibilities and the $3,000 stipend each year. Sarah, you are being demoted back to a history teacher, and likewise, you will have a reduction in pay that may not make working worthwhile anymore. 2. You have been reassigned to different schools on opposite sides of the city to ensure that none of the above happens. Please look at your new job assignments. I am sure you will be happy with them. I was being facetious. I knew they would hate their new schools and jobs. They were in the 2 worst schools in the district. The students are primarily of mixed race and have language issues. The disciplinary issues in these schools were at the highest in the system. They both looked at me and each other. What could they say? It was done. There are additional stipulations that I am imposing on each of you. 1. Anthony, you will pay $250 of Sarah's. You will be asked to give me a firm account of how many times each was used. This money is not for me, it will be put away to pay for our son's college education. It will be an okay gesture on your part for trying to steal his mother from him. 2. Sarah, likewise, you will donate a like amount for each. That calculation you and I will figure out later. Some other punishments and restrictions will be imposed if we do stay together. We will discuss those once that decision is made. 3. The two of you will record a video confession of your affair that I will keep in my safety deposit box to ensure that you never see, speak, text, email, or have any communication after today. 4. Is a wild card condition. Suppose I find out that either of you violate any of these provisions or complain about your new job assignments. In that case, I will divorce you, Sarah, and I will sue Anthony for alienation of affection and take every fucking thing you have. I will also release the confession video to the world. I will suck up the humiliation. But it will ruin your lives forever. The two of them were dumbfounded. They never expected anything like this to happen. So, let's make the video. Move together and look like you, at least like each other. Each of you reads what is on the paper I just put on the table. Look into the camera and smile as you say the words. They each nervously recited their confession, totally humiliating themselves in the process. Once I was satisfied with the video, I made the offer again. Once again, I am offering you one last fuck. If not, Sarah and I will be going. My attorney will be in contact with a legal document spelling out all the details that you will need to sign and deliver a check for your donation to Ellis's college fund. It is so generous of you. They said nothing. I asked with a big smile. Sarah stood, her eyes ablaze at me. She didn't even look at Anthony and walked out the door. Count carefully. Sarah will be giving me her count as well. He looked at me. He was angry. He wanted to kill me and probably himself. He thought for a few minutes, then looked at me. I was surprised at the number. A total of $15,750. That is quite a donation to Ellis's college fund. I stood up and stepped in front of Anthony. His face was full of fear. Anthony's eyes filled with tears, and he began to shake. I looked him in the eyes. Do you understand my meaning, Anthony? You are a slimy snail, and if I shoot you, you will be crawling on your belly from now on. He nodded his head. He was sweating bullets. Goodbye, Anthony. Have a good life, grow up to be a real man, meet a good woman, get married, and protect her from slimeballs like you. Always be faithful to her and be happy. This day will be a distant memory that improved your life. Finally, take your punishment and move on. I walked to the door, watching him as I left. Our drive home was silent, not a whimper. When we entered the house, Sarah ran to our bedroom and closed and locked the door. I went to my office. I had some thinking to do. I needed to make the most significant decision of my life. Stay married to Sarah or divorce her. Texas is an infidelity state so that she can be arrested for that as a crime. I could divorce her and most likely get full custody of Ellis, with Sarah having visitation rights. I knocked on the bedroom door. Sarah, open the door and come out here. We have to finish this now. I heard her walk to the door and unlock it. The door swung open. Sarah had changed into a robe. She looked at me, no longer mad but now with a pleading look on her face. She was deathly afraid of what was coming next. I led her to the den and gave her a glass of wine. I released Sarah from her quiet punishment. You can speak now. Sarah agreed it was accurate. She had counted up 28 times. I accepted that number. I made them all worth $1,000 for a $28,000 donation, along with her matching donation of $15,750. Her total was $43,750. That was about all the money she had saved since returning to work. Ellis, at least something good had come out of her cheating affair. Your college fund had a great start, reaching $58,500 in their fucking fines. I could see the stress on Sarah's face. I decided I needed to ease her pain a little. Sarah, I love you more than anything, but not quite enough just to let your cheating betrayal go without punishment. I am not divorcing you today, but I reserve the right to file at any moment you are sliding that way again. You have shown me that you are not to be trusted. So you have a lot of work to do to earn my trust again. Until then, I will trace your iPhone and receive a copy of all texts, emails, and phone calls. A GPS tracker will also be installed so I will always know where you are. I will be able to see what you see. I am dead serious about you ever seeing, talking to, or even being in the same room with Anthony. The best thing you could do is resign your position and find something else to do or be a mom and raise your boy. You will always treat Ellis and me respectfully when we are out with friends, family, or just us. You will never discuss this affair with anyone, not girlfriends, your sister, or anyone else. I handed her the list of punishment conditions and said, "Read this. These are all deal breakers. Everything I have told you is listed, and you must read, accept, and sign the agreement." I sat back and let her read it. Her eyes filled with tears as she read and signed the agreement. "Sarah, come here," I said. She looked at me, wiped her eyes, and came to me. I pulled her down into my lap and held her. She began to sob. "Oh God, Ellis, I love you so much. I am so sorry for being so weak and giving myself to him. I will make it up to you daily for the rest of my life. Sarah, Anthony's name will never be uttered by either of us again. Understand?" I spoke. "Now, let's get you tested so we can get on with our life together," I said. I called the health department and found a lab where she could get an STD test. Sarah was tested, and we waited. Sarah decided to resign from her teaching position and be a mother. Her STD test was clear when we got it back 2 weeks later. That was the first day of our new life together. "Son, I reclaimed your mother that night. She has been mine and yours ever since. But I fear this is a similar position you might find yourself in now, so remember what I told you. You need to be the man here. You must take control and end this mess right now. Divorce is not what you want to do if you love Sarah." "My God, Dad, I had no idea. You told me too much. Thank you for bearing your soul with me. Ellis, I am sorry to say it, but I believe history has repeated itself with Millie. I sense how Millie is acting. She has something she needs to tell you but doesn't know how. She is scared it will destroy your marriage. I hope Sarah has told her the same story or part of it to encourage Millie to tell you the truth and get it out in the open so you two can deal with it." I was shaking with concern. Dad left me there as I stared up at the stars. What to do now?